guys, it's Melanie. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to a Cassandra Clare signing, so stay tuned. So I don't know how much they'll let me film and everything in there. I hope I can like set up my tripod and film the whole thing, but I don't know, we'll see. So I'm about to leave and drive down to Decatur, Georgia, which will take me a few hours to get to, and try to find where this place is going to be and parking and all of that stuff. And I will be bringing you along. So I probably won't check in with you because I'll be driving, but I will check in with you once I get there. Okay, so I have made it to Decatur, Georgia. I'm here at my Airbnb. I can't show you the entire house because, well, I'm only checked into one room, but I can show you like the common areas of the house and the room that I'm staying in. But the homeowner is actually here, so I'm gonna avoid filming her, but I already have asked if it was okay to film the house. So let's check it out. So here is the front of the house. We have this cute little patio area here. And walking in the front door, it looks like this. And there's also Henley, the cute little doggy. There's another doggy in here somewhere named Cricket, and she's just a tiny little thing. But here is the living room. There's the dining room. This is the room that I will be staying in. Lots of sunlight. A desk where I can work on my video if I have any time. Going through, here's the dining room. Then we have this kitchen. She's got this beautiful backyard. Very cool place to just kind of hang out. Okay, so if you're interested in this particular Airbnb, I will put the link down in the description if you want to check it out. I think it's like $60 a night, something like that. But yeah, check it out. Now I'm gonna go and head over to the school where the event is happening and get in line, because I know line's gonna start super early. All right, I'll check with you later. Hi. Oh, you're sweet, sweet boy. Oh, yeah. Hi. So I am here outside of Presser Hall at Agnes Scott College. This is where the event will be taking place. It looks like at this point there is no line, so yay for me. I plan on just kind of finding a place to sit and working on editing a video until time for the event, which doesn't start for like 3 more hours. Hopefully I can, you know, keep enough charge on my computer and my phone to work on editing and maybe listen to an audiobook until then. Otherwise I'm gonna be really bored. Focus. So funny thing just happened. Rashani Chashki just walked past all these people to go to the wrong door. And I was just like, Rashani, oh my gosh. And nobody noticed her, which is crazy. But now she's in there and I didn't even know she's gonna be part of this, which is really cool. I was like,
Little Shop of Stories. Thank you all so very much for coming out. I cannot tell you how fantastic it is that we are able to host such lions of YA literature. You know, they practically defined the genres, particularly YA fantasy, and it is always fantastic when they were able to visit. I'm so excited that we were able to hear them in conversation. They're going to talk for about 15 minutes or so in conversation, then it's going to open up to questions. You might see that there's 2 mics here, and what I'll ask is that folks line up for asking questions, and then once we get about 30 minutes or so of questions, I'll go ahead and announce, let's make this the last question, and then we'll wrap up, and then we'll have the signing after that. But you don't want to hear me talk anymore. Instead, I'll go ahead and introduce Holly Black and Cassandra Clare. Please put your hands together.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
So, I have some questions for Cassie, but before we start, she has some exciting news, which is that the New York Times bestseller list came out, and she is #1! Okay, just the book is #1. I personally am not #1.
You're #1 to us.
I love whoever said that. All right, so I'm going to ask you a couple questions. So, one of the parts I really loved about this book is Lucy's writing.
Oh, Lucy's writing, yeah.
And obviously, you know, I loved Full Prince James.
If you have any of you read the book? Yeah. So you know about Full Prince James.
No.
Well, I'll have to read it to you. It makes spoilers.
She's a writer, and I was curious how much of your own experience as a young writer is reflected in Lucy.
Oh man. So Lucy Herondale was one of the main characters of the book, and she's a writer. And I've never written a writer before, so that was really fun. And she's working on a book called The Beautiful Cordelia, about her friend Cordelia. Not really about like Cordelia's everyday life. She started writing it to cheer Cordelia up because Cordelia spent most of her life traveling with her family and not being in one place for very long and never getting a chance to make friends. So Lucy kept mailing her this book in installments about the adventures of the beautiful Cordelia and how she meets all these handsome dukes and highwaymen and bandits that are all fall in love with her. That's sort of the plot of the book as much as it can be said to have a plot. And this is definitely based on my own personal experience because when I was 12, my dad gave me my first ever computer because that was literally when personal computers were invented. And half them before that. And I started writing a book because I was like, oh, I have a computer, a very important person, I'm going to write a book. And it was called The Beautiful Cassandra. And it was about a young girl named Cassandra who had recently been gotten out of a convent in 1770 something. I did not know anything about the time period or convents, but I thought it seemed very fancy. And so she gets out of this convent and she meets a young duke named Jadrian. Right? I thought that was a good name. And he falls in love with her, and she falls in love with him, and then they kiss, and then he dies. A big rock falls on him. Because I didn't know what happened after kissing. And so I was like, this will be a clever workaround. And I've been showing this to my friends, and they were like, you can't end it here, this is crap. What is happening? We were invested, which is, you know, a tribute. Yeah, I was like, really? Okay, well, okay, so she's gonna have more adventures. So the beautiful Cassandra went on to meet a pirate and a bandit and some princes and some guys in a band, which was funny because it was 1770, whatever. But and her adventure stretched for 1,000 pages before I finally quit writing The Beautiful Cassandra. It entertained me a lot. It was really terrible. My friends enjoyed it. And I feel like, it's kind of where Lucy's at with her work. She is working. The plot of The Beautiful Cordelia is very similar to the plot of The Beautiful Cassandra, except, of course, that. Oh, no, it's actually not. Pearl Prince James is not in The Beautiful Cordelia. Pearl Prince James appears in Lucy's earlier work. Secret Princess Lucy is rescued from her terrible family. Which I really enjoyed writing the stuff about that. It was really fun.
So one of the things that we like to do as writers is torment characters. And often we like to have them pre-tormented for our convenience when they come to a book. And you've managed to create some torment in the past of these characters. But was it difficult to have to deal with so many characters with such good and hot parents?
I really hope that's not how they think about their parents. Parents, so nice, so hot. I mean, sure, their parents are mostly pretty hot, but fortunately they never think about it that way. It was hard, it actually was really hard, because a lot of torment comes from things, family structure stuff. Jace has, a terrible evil father. Will is estranged from his parents. Emma's parents are dead. And, Clary's father is evil, all that stuff. So, I couldn't do any of that. I had to figure out how to sort of create conflict with these characters that would kind of come from other sources. And then also were things that their parents couldn't help them with. I mean, there are reasons that they don't tell their parents things that are happening to them in the book, because they can't run to their parents for help. So there's sort of reasons built into the book why it's impossible for their parents to be able to help them with these situations, but it has to be carefully balanced where, of course their parents would love to help, and I'm sure they would love to have their parents help, but it's not possible. And so some of it, I think, comes from just the situations that they find themselves in, and some of it comes from the fact that a lot of them are keeping secrets from each other, like Matthew is keeping secrets from his parents and also all of his friends about something that he did in the past that he feels incredibly guilty about, and he can't tell his parents. He can't tell them because he is really afraid of what would happen if he did.
So I also want to talk about Anna, who I love so much. She is a rake, and I love a rake.
We may have to define a rake because Marie asked me about her being a rake, and the audience was like, a rake is like a garden tool.
Well, how would you describe it?
I would say a rake is a fictional archetype. If you read historical fiction, especially if it's set in the Regency period, you'll definitely read about rakes. And it was the way that often a gentleman was described if he was careless with other people's hearts. Somebody who went around kind of not paying attention to the rules of society, seducing ladies, breaking their hearts, casting them aside, and seducing other ladies. Very charming, very well-dressed, very smart, but a heartbreaker. And Anna is definitely that character, gender-flipped.
And so I wanted you, if you would, talk a little bit about your inspiration for her, and also maybe some of the historical research you did to connect her to figures at that time.
I would say definitely my inspiration comes from I'm a huge fan of Regency romance. As you may well know, we have read some of the same books. Georgette Heyer kind of pioneered the Regency romance, and it's a huge genre of books, and the rake is just this kind of a standard character within you. You always will run into the rake at some point or another going around breaking people's hearts, and the question about the rake is always, will the rake meet that special lady who is able to stop him from going around breaking people's hearts, and settle down?
Often by breaking his
often by breaking his heart, which is the fun part, I think, because you want to see, someone who, goes around creating heartbreak, maybe get their own heart broken. And I think that the inspiration for Anna in part came from the idea of, well, what if that character was a woman? What if she was this dashing and sophisticated lady who went around breaking other ladies' hearts? And how would she, what would she be like? How would she be charming? How would she wear? How would she break other, ladies' hearts? How would they regard her? And I think there's something that was said about Byron, Lord Byron, who was a poet and also a famous rake, that like he would walk into a room and women would, burst into tears and run out of the room. And I was like, well, I want to write a lady who's like that. She walks into the room and the ladies burst into tears and they run out of the room. So I did the research for her by reading about women in that time period who did, it's interesting. I think if Anna lived now, she would probably describe herself as non-binary or gender non-conforming, but those kind of concepts do not exist in 1903. So Anna identifies as female, but when she thinks about herself, she thinks, sometimes I feel more masculine, sometimes I feel more feminine, my identity kind of crosses the spectrum, and there are other women who existed at that time period who thought and presented in that way, even though they didn't really use the word. The gender basically was never used unless you were a scientist. But they would refer to themselves sometimes as gentlewomen, like sort of a mixture of masculine and feminine. And one of the ones that I researched very closely was Mathilde de Morny, who was the girlfriend of Colette, who was one of my favorite writers, and Mathilde wore men's clothes, and she shot and hunted with men, and she was called Monsieur by her servants, and she put on a scandalous play at the Moulin Rouge where she and Colette made out on stage, and the people in Paris were horrified but also intrigued. And I just really loved her, and she was such a fascinating person, and sometimes people say to me, oh, Anna, I don't think a character like that would exist in 1903, and I'm like, you think non-binary people just popped up? That's a thing that just started to exist now? This is something that has existed throughout our history, and we don't always have the same name for it, but here there are these real historical characters real historical people. They existed. They're real people, and so, basing her a little bit on Mathilde is helpful in that way.
So I also wanted to ask, so I live about a mile from Cassie, and so I lived there first. And often we write together, we write with our friend Kelly Link, and we also spend a lot of time going away on writing retreats. You organize a lot of writing retreats. And I think that we think of writing as a very solitary activity. It is presented that way in media. And so I wanted to ask you what it's like and what you think the advantages of writing in community.
I think that writing is often presented as something that you should do alone. This idea that you're like a solitary genius working in a garret or whatnot. But I think that for me and for a lot of people, it's extremely helpful to have people who know you're writing well and work with you. And people often ask us, questions like, is it hard to share your ideas or share your thought process? And I always find it interesting because it's interesting to me that would be a problem. I know this is not your thing, but if you're asking me questions, but I'm sort of curious about why that, what it is about being told things about writing that people sort of absorb the idea that it's bad to share your ideas.
I think some people have some anxiety around the idea that if you work out a story with friends, if you go to your friends and say, friends, help, that story will no longer be solely yours. And, I know when I have tried to convince people otherwise, I have described the process. And the process is often I will go to Cassie and I will say, there's something wrong with this book. Let me tell you what I think might be wrong, and you can help me figure out what I should do. And she will offer a suggestion, and I will say, no, I don't know the answer is no, right? What I do, you know what your story is, which is why it's still your story, even when your friends are giving you suggestions.
That's very true. That like we work together. We have a group of friends we also work with, including our friend Kelly Link, and who live in our area, and then sort of a larger group of friends that we often gather for these retreats. So it's interesting to have been, part of the process of people figuring out stories. And we were there when Lee was figuring out Six of Crows, which now feels very historic. But at the time it was just me being like, I want to write a heist novel, and we're like, all right. Been there for all the books, since Tide, pretty much, that you've written, and you've been there for all of my books. I remember when I first told you about City of Bones, and you were like, that seems like that seems like an okay idea. So I've been sort of sharing my work from the beginning with Holly and then sort of a larger group of people, but it is definitely true that often I'll sit down and be like, okay, let me tell you about this book, but here's where I'm stuck. And then Holly will be like, well, what's it? Maybe this other thing. And I think you do learn a lot about what your book is by being like, no, not that, but what about this? And then you kind of make the suggestion to the group of the correct idea, which otherwise you would not have been able to have. Like your writing group kind of basically helps you chip away at what your book is until it is revealed. I think, like chipping away at a block of stone until you get the statue. So you're sort of chipping away and you finally get the thing. But, it remains your idea because I think, fielding suggestions and absorbing concepts is, it remains. Like at some point when I was working on Chain of Gold, I was working on the ballroom scene that's in the beginning, and I remember Kelly said to me, why don't you have Cordelia make a mistake? And there is a moment in there where she says the wrong thing to somebody, but I didn't know what, Kelly didn't know what this mistake was going to be. I mean, Cordelia could have burned the place down, It was a very general idea, but as part of the structure of a story, I was like, oh, I see what that could do for me. So, yeah, I think that, it's often when I talk to people who are really, really, really stuck on a book, they're like, man, stuck on this book, everything sucks, and I'm like, well, maybe you should talk it over with someone, and, we can talk it over right now. Holly is, basically famous in the writing community as being somebody who will fix your book. So, she has always been buttonholed by people who are like, I have this problem. She is extremely helpful. But yeah, people are often surprised to find that talking over the problem they are having is actually incredibly helpful.
So here's my last question for you. All right. What's the weirdest thing that you discovered in your research?
Okay, the Edwardians are really big into nipple piercing. Right? I don't know what you mean.
I was waiting to see if there was really?
Follow-up?
Yeah, no, really?
No, really. It's one of the weird things that I found out because I was looking into beauty and fashion of the era, and there was a diary entry from a lady who was like, and then we went down, we were in Paris, we went down to see Madame B, who, will tint your hair, and then for an extra cost, as is all the craze right now, will pierce your nipples. I was like, what? And then what? So basically, Madame B would pierce your nipples and then hang a chain between them. And that was very popular. And it was a big thing. And there were a whole bunch of testimonies from different ladies of the era, gentlewomen of the aristocracy. I mean, one of the people who was known to have a nipple piercing was Lady Randolph Churchill. So, not the Churchill we know from World War II, earlier Churchill, but still part of a very fancy family. And she had both nipple piercings and a tattoo. And I was like, this is wild! I did not know that women of this era got tattoos, but there was a trend for tattooing, and several of the crown princes had tattoos, and the king who would later go on to be George V. And there was this whole nipple piercing thing where ladies got their nipples pierced and then joined together by a chain, and they would talk about the various things they would hang off the chain between their nipples. And I was like, Edwardian ladies were wild! I didn't put it in the book because nobody would believe it. Right? I would be like, Cassie has not done her research. Nipple piercing. Totally true.
Well, that was a great thing for my questions to go down on. It's time for your questions.
Okay, so first person to ask a question gets a tote bag.
I have a question.
All right, the tote bag is yours then.
They gotta go to the mic.
Okay, I will give you the tote bag while we wait for the microphone. And I can't see anything. I'm just gonna throw it and throw it. I hope this goes okay. Yes. Okay, where is the microphone?
Here's this one's on. That one just has a button.
Hello. Hi.
So I just recently finished Ghost of the Shadow Market,
Oh, cool.
and one of my favorite stories in there is the one that you wrote with Kelly later, that's based in Chattanooga, which is where I live. And I was wondering what inspired you to write about Chattanooga, of all places.
Okay, that is kind of a question that is not going to have that exciting an answer, but it is because it is where Kelly is one of the places she lived. I don't think she's actually from Chattanooga. Is she? She's from somewhere near there.
She lived a couple places, but she lived in Florida for a while.
Yeah, Kelly, our friend Kelly, she's a good Southern girl. So she lived in Asheville and Chattanooga when she was growing up. So when we were writing the story, or when we first kind of came to the idea of the story, she said, "Can we set it in Chattanooga?" And I was like, "Yeah, but you're going to have to do all the research and stuff because I don't know anything about Chattanooga. I've never been there." So she did. She did an awesome job. But that's why.
Thank you. And I have to go find that Shadow Market.
Okay. We can't see anything, so.
I'm sorry. So you have kind of been at the forefront of LGBT publishing and YA since the very beginning. Since you have recently published Red Scrolls of Magic, and clearly that wasn't something that could have happened 10 years ago, what has changed for you as far as publishing YA books? Has it become easier? What has the process changed?
I mean, I think that's a question we can both probably address, having written, both written LGBT characters, although you're right, Red Scrolls of Magic, I couldn't have sold that in 2005. Nobody would have bought it from me, because they wouldn't have thought that a fantasy novel with 2 gay leads could have worked. Like, there were books about gay characters, but they were basically what we would call problem novels, which means that they were about coming out. The experience of coming out. And I think there's a real, obvious value to those books because they let people know that, their coming out experience, if they've already had one, is not, they're not the only person, or if they're thinking about coming out, it's, something that hopefully makes people feel less alone. But I think there's a genuine value to showing people that in the kind of books that they like to read for fun, the characters who are like them can be represented. And that was sort of what I was trying to do with Alec and Magnus, is just be like, look, in this book, there are all these characters, and some of them are gay, some of them are bisexual, and they just happen to be here. And, so you, the reader, if you are looking for a character that reflects more your own identity, you can just find them in this book that you like to read because you like to read fantasy anyway. But I think that I was able to publish that book because Alec and Magnus weren't the main characters. And I got a lot of pushback, but there was a lot of I remember meeting with a lady who ran a book club, and I don't want to say what it was, a very, very big book club. And she was like, "I really, really love your book, but of course, as you know, we can't take it." And I remember there was a time period where, you remember this? On the Barnes & Noble website, they partnered with Common Sense Media, which was supposed to be like reviews for parents of children's books, and on the page for City of Bones, they had warnings, and one of them was violence, and it was under sexual content. And I made a complaint. I was like, I don't see how a character being gay is sexual content anymore, and the character being straight is sexual content. It has nothing to do with anything. And they were like, we're not going to change it. And they did take this stuff down, but they took it down for everybody. It's not like they just took it down for me, but it was stuff like that, which I think would not be happening now because there would be an outcry. What do you think?
Yeah, I was thinking about how I sat down to write an introduction to Melinda Lowe's Ash, and because it's been out, I think it's 10 years. And when I did, that was the first time I realized that was the first, I believe, there may be, a book I'm missing, but I really believe that's the first lesbian fantasy published in YA where the main character is.
It would be the only thing I could think of, because I remember our
Yeah,
age
and
at
it
the
was the
time.
one, but until I was reading that introduction, I was like, wait, what?
Right.
And so it really, really gives perspective to how recent that,
That stuff like
Exactly.
Scrolls of Magic or Infinite Sun or Carry On could be published now because they wouldn't have been 10 or 11 years ago. So we have a long way to go, but it is progress.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
I just had a question that you both could answer actually, since you both have Fae in your stories. How did that come about? I mean, I know there's fairies, right, beforehand, but did you have to do any special research? And maybe you read a folk story by any chance that kind of clicked into like, oh, this is Fae and this is how we're going to go about it, if that makes sense?
so like where did the berries in our work come from?
Right, like where did that Fae like idea like come from and how Fae is presented in both of your stories?
Well, it's a lot of the same folklore. So we're drawing on a lot of the same inspiration in terms of material. If you mean like specific text, great. Of course, my mind has gone black with it.
So, well, I was going to say that for me, I know the first book that really got me into fairies was an illustrated book, Brian Froud and Alan Lee's book, Fairies. It is beautiful, and you should look for it. Brian Froud did concept art for Dark Crystal and Labyrinth, and Alan Lee did concept art for Lord of the Rings. So imagine them in the 70s in like a weird little English village together, like
Super high.
the most terrifying and beautiful fairies ever. And that was really my introduction as a kid. And then, then we went on to, well then, when I met Cassie, she had read a lot of the same folklore that I had. I always think of Fairy Faith in Celtic Countries by W. Lawrence as being a really good one. Dermot McManus's The Middle Kingdom, anything by Catherine Briggs.
There's a book called The Ninth Wave, Evangeline Walton wrote a series of books that are modern retellings of the Mabinogion and that are really fantastic. And so a lot of this is Celtic fairy lore, but Celtic fairy lore and like Icelandic Norse fairy lore, they overlap a lot. So the stuff that you see in our book, the Celia and Unseelie courts, the idea of the different warring courts, the idea that fairies can't lie, that they're allergic to iron, all of that stuff comes from specifically this folklore tradition.
Then make up anything. The hard thing is, though, when you're dealing with it, and you'll see the differences in our work a lot of times, are differences of which things we pick.
Right, like we're picking different sort of fairy lore to follow in terms of, what fairies are bothered by. In my books, they're bothered by Rowan Wood. I don't think they are in your books. No, I thought they were really devil may care about Rowan Wood.
I won't explain, but
Well, okay, you have multiple courts. I only have 2. Yeah.
what I was going to say, though, is that Cassie makes fun of fairies.
They get on my nerves.
And so I was so excited that somehow she had backed herself into a whole series that was full of fairies. And they were great. I enjoyed every moment of it.
Because I suffered, and I kept coming to Holly and being like, how would you see this in a fairy way? Because, I just need a fairy to say something like, time for you to lie down now, but the fairies don't talk like that. They're like, endless love, walk with
It was my ultimate revenge.
Yeah,
And she did it to herself.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna have to be faster and answer questions.
Hi. What was kind of like, I guess going through your head when you wrote the books? Because when I read them, and it's like the themes of like, I guess the racism, and I guess the generational pain, or like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna raise my question, but I guess what was kind of like going through your head when you had some of those topics in there, especially in regards to like mental illness and the LGBT community?
Okay, so I think Kelsey cannot quite hear you.
Yeah,
So the question, I think I have this, but you'll have to help me out. So what was going through your head when you were writing the books? because you had themes of racism and generational pain, and also mental health issues.
Yeah, because the thing was all through Blackthorn and the Lady of Air and Darkness that really got to me.
Arthur Blackthorne and
Arthur Blackthorne.
I
it
forgot
really got
her
you.
name.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, my hearing is really bad.
It's not the first time this has happened.
Yeah, I'll probably have to translate for me. So sort of like, what was the idea of like addressing themes like mental health and autism and generational pain in the Dark Artifices?
Yes.
Okay, oh man, I mean, I think that to me there are different things, you know. I wanted to write Ty because I wanted to write an autistic shadow hunter because I wanted, you know, people who are autistic to be able to see themselves as shadow hunters in the shadow hunter world. And Arthur, I mean, it's interesting because Arthur has a kind of mental illness that's sort of allegorical. He has been driven mad by fairies. You know, this is not a thing that happens to people in the real world. Like what fairies have done to him doesn't have any real world, like, exact, you know, component, but it allegories to mental health in our world. And I think that, you know, I wanted to write about how alone Julian was in raising his brothers and sisters, and that he has this adult that lives with them, because I thought, you know, there's no way that Clave is going to allow just Julian, who's 12, to raise his entire family. Like, somebody would step in, but not if they thought there was an adult there who was taking care of things. And so I wanted to create the situation that I've seen a lot of other people in and friends in, which is that they have a parent or parental figure, but that parental figure isn't able to care for them. So in that sense, you know, Arthur's mental illness, or the fairies having sort of broken his mind, is sort of a metaphor for the situation that Julian finds himself in, of being the only person who is taking care of his family because the actual adult in the house can't do it. Alright.
Hi. I have a question, I guess, for both of you. If you could look back to your younger selves who was writing like your very first book, and you could have the knowledge of where you would be today, like, what would you say to your younger self?
I'm not saying, I literally said this to my husband the other night, that I never think about going back to give myself writing advice. I always think about going back and giving myself clothing advice. And I think about it a lot. Okay.
When I was like 13, 14, I went to a psychic because all my friends were going, and I asked her if I would ever be a published author, and she said no. So I would go back and tell myself to get that $5 back.
Thank you.
I just think that was helpful.
Hi. I was wondering if you guys would ever consider putting an asexual character in your books.
Once again, didn't hear it. Asexual character, do you ever consider putting one in your books?
Raphael's asexual in the books. So he is. But yes, I mean, I would certainly write another asexual character, but Raphael is asexual.
I'm not caught up yet.
It's okay.
That means so much.
You're welcome.
Hello. Hi.
Oh, hi.
So my question is, I know that you said that the next series is probably going to be the last one in the Shadowhunter universe, but I'm wondering if before then, or even after then, if you've ever thought about, I guess, completing the family tree and revisiting some of the in-between characters, so that would be like James' future kids, or kind of like that group. Does that make sense?
I think, so she's saying she knows that Wicked Powers is the last series, but would I...
What if it wasn't?
She was a little more sneaky about it.
So these guys are different places.
So what if there are more stories about some of the peripheral characters?
No, like what if like connecting them? Like there's still more generations between.
Oh, okay, so yeah, really, it was definitely one of them wasn't. I don't know what will happen after Wicked Powers. Wicked Powers is as far as I have it planned. So once I'm done with it, I don't know exactly what I will do. I have, a book called Swordcatcher coming out next year, which is unrelated to the Shadowhunters. So I think it's often good for me, as it was with Magisterium, to have something that isn't Shadowhunters to work on, because it allows me to kind of come back to Shadowhunters and still love it. So I don't know, once I have written Swordcatcher and finished the the Wicked Powers, I do not know where my head will be at. So I could certainly see myself writing more short story collections, or, who knows, maybe Tessa and Jem's little girl Nina gets her own story.
Shadowhunter origins. Jonathan Shadowhunter.
So much research. Do you know how gross people were in the medieval era? Really gross. I don't know. Showers taken, 0. Shadowhunter, 10. It could happen, but I'm held up by how gross the medieval era was. Okay.
Hi. So, this is my best friend. We've been here at Batai for like 6 years, so she's here for moral support.
That's good.
So this is for both of y'all. So, I know that writing can be like a frustrating and long process. So, is there any like certain quirks or like rituals that y'all do, like that you feel like helps y'all write better? Like having like the room at a certain temperature or something like that?
I constantly tell myself that I'm going to come up with a new method of writing that will solve all my problems and will make things easy. And then I tell it to Cassie, and she makes fun of me.
Well, we're going on like method 75 now. And I'm like, your books are good, you don't need a new method. And she's like, I have decided to wander through the woods dictating out loud for myself. You're gonna get killed. This is a literal conversation.
Okay, so I wanted to remain my bears. I the other day posted to Twitter that I had messed up my arm, which is true from writing, and that I have tendonitis, I needed advice. And somebody said, if you had only walked in the woods dictating, it would have been fine. It was a callback you didn't even know happened.
No, I wasn't paying attention. But I say you would have been eaten by bears. Boy, have we not answered this question. Okay, Holly comes up with different written things that things that she thinks might work. And I make playlists for my books. That's sort of a ritual. When I start a new book, I make a playlist and I listen to it while I'm writing.
That's a good way to seem like you're working.
Yes. I made Holly a playlist the other day. That's how much I was procrastinating.
Hi. So I have a little bit of a silly question. So we all love the Herondales, but why ducks? Why did you choose?
That's a great story.
There weirdly is a story there. So, I'll try to tell the quick version. I was in London doing research for the Infernal Devices, and my friend Sarah was with me, and we decided to go to Hyde Park, because there's a scene in the Infernal Devices where Jessamine and Tessa take a walk in Hyde Park, so I wanted to do some research. So we go, and we bring with us some pies, and pies in England are not really what we think of as pies. They're mostly like pastries that are sort of stuffed with like meat and stuff like that. So we bring our meat pies down there, and we're kind of feeding, we're feeding the ducks that are in the river, and suddenly Sarah turns to me and she's like, these are duck pies, we're feeding ducks to ducks. These are cannibal ducks. And we look at them and their beady little eyes are all red, and we're like, oh, this is so disgusting. Like, we're just like morally revolted, and so we start packing up all the food, but the ducks know we still have food, so they're mad, so they start chasing us. So they chase us out of the park, biting at us, because we stopped feeding them the flesh of their people. And after that, I felt very negatively towards them.
Hey. Sorry, heard of you. Sorry. This no, it's fine. I'm nervous. So, I love both you guys. Love fantasy. Amazing. Rage also sounds like 13.
So, and I know you both have like edgy boys in both of your series. Like Carlin is definition, very much so, and then you have Jace and Will and really pretty much every other guy. kind of. There's some other guys, but I was wondering if you guys ever kind of bounce off each other, because I know you've written together on your characters' personalities, maybe? Because I see Cardin sometimes in early Jace, he got a little bit better, you know, when he was super into the beginning, but I was just wondering if you guys ever bounce characters off each other.
I mean, certainly, I feel like I bounce everything off things. And I'm like, what about this? You like this? What do you think? Read this. But I think, I guess the question is how much do we rub off on each other? And I think that's something that you never really, at least I don't really know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, I know that we do, because you can't not when you're that close to someone and you work together so frequently. But I think that often we don't know the extent of, how much we have influenced each other because it just becomes part of us.
I was thinking like a lot of the same books though.
Yeah, that was actually how we started to become friends, is that we bonded over the books that we read and how we had read the same really obscure fantasy books. And we were like, wow, we've read all of the same books. And I'm sure there are many of you here who have bonded with friends over the same thing. I always meet people who bonded, together over books, and it is very normal. But it's always nice to meet someone where you're like, I read this really weird book, and I'm like, oh yeah, I love that book.
Hi, so I really love the pyramid type bond, and I wanted to know, where did your idea for that come from, and who's your favorite player?
Nope, I don't have it either.
You really love what?
The pyramid type bond.
Oh, the Parameter bond! Okay, we're both there. And we're gonna come up with the idea. I was actually...
Your favorite pair.
Oh, my favorite pair. Okay, so I'm not quite coming up with the idea. Okay, well, I'll tell you what the story is. Honestly, I promise, not that exciting. I was doing research because when I first came up with the idea of Shadowhunters, I thought of them as these very archaic warriors, who would kind of fight like Roman warriors and Greek warriors. And so I looked into a bunch of Roman and Greek military history, and in Greek military history there's a thing called, and I'm not going to mangle this pronunciation because I don't know how to speak ancient Greek, Henokai Parbatai, which basically means a chariot driver and the sideman in the chariot, and were never supposed to separate. And they had to stay together in battle, and even not in battle, they were supposed to sleep in the same place, eat in the same place, and always be together. And I thought, oh, this is a really cool way of kind of literalizing the bond of friendship. And so I started to think about how do I literalize the bond of friendship within the context of magic and the Shadowhunter world. And so I kept the word Parvati. And in terms of my favorite pair, Will and Jem.
See, you gave the right answer.
You never know what's going to be.
So, my question is, obviously there's a lot of representation of different genders, different sexualities in your books, and obviously, and I'm not caught up 100%, so I apologize if you've already done it, but there is that kind of love triangle-y sort of thing going on in at least the first two series, and I was wondering if you had ever considered bringing in representation of a polyamorous relationship.
Well, my friend, you are not caught up.
That makes me really happy.
You should read the Dark Artifices.
They're the next thing on my list after I finish the library of relationship thing. That one has a deadline. So.
Yes, I think it will all turn out the way you want. I was like, oh, I wonder what this is going to be. Hey, yeah. All right.
Hello. I was wondering if you ever thought about making a different ending to City of Heavenly Fire.
Did you ever think about making a different ending to City of Heavenly Fire? Is that correct? Yeah. No. Yeah. Okay.
No. And I don't know what this is about. This is Sebastian should have lived. I do not feel that way. I truly think that he had to go. understand. Cool.
Alright, so I brought my pair of tie-up moral support too. Yay! So as writers, especially in your younger years, I'm sure that y'all had like a lot of inspiration from other authors, and I guess I was just wondering what y'all's favorite books kind of growing up were.
Lord of the Rings, probably.
I particularly was influenced by Lord of the Rings. I think a book that, a writer that we both read when we were actually pretty young was Cassandra Clare.
Yeah, and I got to meet her once.
Slightly obscure British fantasy writer, but I read a lot of Cassandra Clare pastiches.
You wrote a lot of fantasy pastiches, right? I thought you said you read a lot. I was like, where?
No, I wrote a lot of Cassandra Clare pastiches.
No, I think this was one of the things we bonded over. I loved her. She wrote this like beautiful, like dark fantasy. She wrote a collection called Red is Blood, which is all rewritten fairy tales, but they're all like really dark and like Snow White is a vampire. It's really awesome. So I recommend them.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hi. So earlier you said that if Anna existed like modern day, she would probably be considered non-binary or non-gender conforming. Personally, since I identify as non-binary, I was wondering if you're ever planning or would like consider introducing a character that does identify as non-binary or non-gender conforming.
Okay, I got the beginning part. So Anna, non-binary.
Would you ever write a contemporary character who identified as non-binary or non-gender?
Sure, yeah, no, that would be something I would definitely want to do. It's interesting the way that characters come to you just in different time periods, and Anna happened to be a character who came to me in 1903, but definitely we'd be happy to do that, yeah.
Thank you.
No,
Julian said that he never really desired anyone but Emma, so I'm curious if he's demisexual.
I mean, I avoided using the word demisexual because Julian wouldn't know it. So I felt like I couldn't put it in the book, in the same way that like Ties winds up being described as autistic by Kit because Kit comes from the mundane world and knows that word, but the Shadowhunters are never going to know it. And in the same way, I was like, there's no way they know demisexual, and there's definitely no way Julian knows demisexual because he's never been on the internet. Or talked to any mundane people. So I think that I wrote him as a character who's attracted sexually only to people that he has an incredibly strong bond with, in this case, Emma. So I would say yes, but I recognize I didn't use the word, so that leaves it more open to interpretation.
Thank you.
What was your inspiration for Mark and Christina's relationship?
Yeah, the polyamorous one. I think because Polly knows a lot of the same people I know. I have a lot of friends who are poly and are in polyamorous relationships, and it was actually it was one of the things I thought was there are no books for their kids. Like, how are the kids going to ever see, people who are in relationships that are like their parents' relationships, which are poly relationships, and so I kind of thought, well, to that end, I kind of want to I would like to represent a poly relationship so that both people who are poly, but also people whose families and their parents are poly are able to see that structure as, as a valid romantic family structure. So that was the idea. Real people I know.
And let's make this the last question. Did you have a question? Okay, go ahead.
Hi, Cassie. One of your older readers. I've been reading since 2007. When I was much smaller.
Why my oldest reader is 96, she writes to me. She's very cute.
I'm guessing as writers, there's plenty of characters that you both have that are kind of in the back of your mind but never really come to fruition. But are there any characters that are fully developed in your heads but they just, for whatever reason, never make the book?
You want me to, you look at me.
Yes, I want you to.
I mean, when I was, yes, I think so. I think try to get them in there. But I think sometimes not so much that the whole character gets taken out, I think sometimes they get taken apart and used for parts.
Oh.
Like pieces of them go to other characters, because otherwise they still exist as whole and complete characters that could be used for another book, but when they go, it's because I took pieces of their story and gave them to other people. Bad way to go.
What's the question? Is there a character you didn't get to write?
Like a character that got cut out in some way, right?
Like a fully developed character in your head that for whatever reason, maybe it's a plot or because their character didn't move the plot forward or whatever, they never reached the book, but they lived in your head and built your book.
Usually it's pieces of characters that get discarded. My husband actually reminded me of something really interesting, because we were talking about a character in Chain of Gold, and he reminded me that in the first draft of Clockwork Angel, Will was an alcoholic. And I was like, really? Oh yeah! And then I took it out, because I was like, it can't be that Will is an alcoholic and Jeff is a drug addict. What is happening? And Charlotte is making crack. But I was like, oh right, you can actually take like pieces out of the character and move them and change them, and so that piece wound up going to a different character who was in Chain of Gold. So I think that really we do take our characters apart. Sometimes I'll have a character that floats around in my head and hasn't made it into a book yet, but I just figure they're going to make it into a future book.
Yeah, I feel like that's when the time when you know they're really gone is when you've stripped them.
Yeah, once you stripped them down for parts and you took all the bits and gave them to other people, you're like, I don't want ever to see Terry again. All right, thank you guys so much.
Thank you all so very much. I could listen to this podcast for 100 years. You guys are like the best show in the world. Let's give another round of applause.
I was the one for S, so I know, I recognized you, so I was like, it was a great moment, so I was like, I can help you out. How are you? I love your hair. Well, and now she went and changed it. Very impressed. Oh, thank you. That's so cool. Oh, were you filming? And you actually, you have a child. Thank you so much.
So, Valiant. Hi. Hi. So, Valiant, I got used, and it's already personalized and signed. This is my name, April.
Interesting. All right, so you'll have to tell me what you want me to do to it, if anything. Yeah, of course.
Because you don't actually have to sign it, because it's already signed. No worries.
There you go. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
oh.
why not?
Wow.
Let's do it.
All right. April, you did me wrong. All right.
Yes.
So let me see, Melanie.
Technically, they gave ID. Okay, I'll let you say that.
April.
I was like, oh, April, why'd you do it?
Why'd you do me like that, April? There you go. Thanks for bringing these in.
Thank you so much.
So check out your book too.
Awesome.